she is, standing tall and proud, radiant, breathtaking, glowing for the entire country to see. There were times where she didn't look her best, torn and frail, but see, she never crumbled. How could she? Not for these people, not for this city. She kept hope alive when hope was a fleeting notion. Tonight, her team is one step away from an NFL dream. They're led by a man who's adopted this town as his own. It is his hope he can deliver a championship to a city that has never had one. Standing in their way, the Minnesota Vikings, led by a legend who just couldn't say goodbye. Favre certainly has fond memories here and has returned to this city's beacon of hope, looking for just one more shot at glory. She has never looked so stunning on this night. How could she? Two teams, one goal, the NFC Championship, and it's next on Fox.
Brett Favre said this is what he came back for. And now the oldest quarterback to start a championship game is just one win away from a Super Bowl. But so too is Drew Brees. He had the most accurate passing season in the history of the National Football League this year. Meanwhile, for 8 years, he was Brett Favre's teammate in Green Bay. The last 4, he was a Viking. Today, Darren Sharper could be the X factor as he leads the Saints defense into battle. It's the top 2 scoring teams in the National Football League facing off for the NFC Championship. 2 franchises that have never won a Super Bowl, the Vikings and the Saints. And for 43 long years, these fans in New Orleans have waited for this day. The first time ever this city has hosted an NFC Championship game. At stake, the George Halas Trophy and the trip to Super Bowl 44. It all begins with a Built Ford Tough Fox NFL Sunday pregame show. Howdy, gang. I'm Kurt Menefee. Welcome to the Superdome here in New Orleans today, where you will witness not only a great game, but a special bond between a city and its football team unlike anything we've seen before. But joining me, as always, a total of 8 Super Bowl rings up here. Jimmy, Michael, Howie, and Louisiana's native son, Mr. Terry Bradshaw. And the last time you were on the set in this stadium, you were singing with Paul McCartney.
Got it.
But you got a bad voice today, so gotta conserve it. Use it wisely.
But you know what we did learn today? When these fans are out here yelling, "Who dat?" It has nothing to do with the Saints. They're wondering, who's that guy sitting next to Terry Bradshaw? Who dat? Everybody, that's Kurt Menefee.
I think that's where everybody who's with Terry Bradshaw, this is his town, man. This is his people, absolutely.
He's the
All
mayor.
right, guys, let's get a quick look at the Domino's playoff picture in the AFC. The Colts right now leading the Jets in the final seconds of that game, and they came back from 17-6 down, and they lead it right now 30-17, I'm told. 30-17 with just seconds to go, so it looks like the Indianapolis Colts are going to their second Super Bowl in the last 4 years. We will break down that game a little bit later on. And also right now, talk about the Vikings and Saints facing off for the NFC title. We bring in the guys who are calling the game for us here from the Superdome, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Take it away, guys.
All right, Kurt, I got a guy next to me who has 3 Super Bowl rings, and it's loud in here now, but it's going to get a lot louder in about a half an hour. And because of that, Troy, the Minnesota Vikings, especially the offensive players, are going to be wearing earplugs in today's game.
Yeah, and only Brett Favre has worn them before, and so these guys have worn the earplugs this week in practice, and to me that would be a little bit unsettling. You know, a game of this magnitude to be going with something and they're not really completely sure as to how it's going to affect them. But I think the one thing that Minnesota can do to offset some of this crowd noise is to get Adrian Peterson going and not allow them to just tee off then on Brett Favre in the pocket.
On the other side for the Saints, a big move that head coach Sean Payton made in '06 when he took over here with the Saints was to get quarterback Drew Brees in a New Orleans uniform. That combination has been brilliant.
In fact, Drew Brees says oftentimes he knows what play's coming in before Sean Payton even makes the call. And one of the things that they like to do each week is do a lot of personnel packages, a lot of movements, shifts, motions. And this week is no different than any other. But what is different is they're going up against a rookie middle linebacker in Jasper Brinkley, and as Sean Payton told us, they want to have his head spinning within the first 20 plays of this game.
We cannot wait to call tonight's game. Let's go back down to the field. Kurt, all yours.
All right, we can't wait to hear you. It should be a good one. But you know, Jimmy, you take a look at this Vikings team, 12-4 during the regular season, but only 4-4 on the road. 3 of those wins were against the Lions, Rams, and Browns, so they probably shouldn't count. They're 1-4 in their last 5 road games, but what do they have to do to turn that around and come in here in a big game and win on the road?
Well, Kurt, Troy Aikman referenced it earlier on. He said the story of the game is going to be noise. A week ago, the Minnesota Vikings controlled the game, sacked Tony Romo 6 times because they had the advantage of the crowd noise. Well, they're not going to have the advantage tonight. Drew Brees throwing the check downs, throwing the screens, running the draws, and using the snap count will slow down that pass rush. On the other side, Brett Favre is going to have a very difficult time audibling, and that's going to be difficult against this New Orleans defense because they love to blitz.
Well, the only thing to take the crowd noise out is if the Minnesota Vikings get off to a fast start, score some points, make the crowd go, whoa, are we into this thing? But last week we saw the rebirth of Reggie Bush, reminded us a lot of his USC days, set the tone for the Saints. If he can do that, it's going to open up so much more for everybody else on that offense.
We had the honor of doing the first post 9/11 Super Bowl right here in this building, and you said something that stuck with me since that time, that given all that the country had been through, yes, but given all that the country had been through, how could you possibly pick against a team named the Patriots? Well, given all that this community's been through post-Katrina, and particularly the horrors that occurred in this very building, and given the way that Sean Payton and the Saints have embraced the hopes and dreams of this community, hard to pick against the Saints today.
This is not so much a game of X's and O's for me as it is. I'm from this great state. I love it. I love this city, and I've been a Saints fan ever since I wanted to be drafted by here. But I consider this a privilege today, and all you viewers should, and the fans here, to watch Drew Brees go against Brett Favre. I think it'll be fantastic.
Saints have never been in the Super Bowl. Vikings haven't been there in 33 years. They will definitely have something to say about it. But right now, we want to bring in our NFL insider, Jay Glazer, who has plenty to say about the injury situation going on with these teams. First up, let's talk about the Vikings, Jay. Ray Edwards and Percy Harvin, what's their status?
Kurt, we're going to start with Percy Harvin. And Harvin had migraines earlier in the week, suffered, absolutely debilitated him earlier this week. He did make the trip down. I talked to him about 2 hours ago, and he said, look, I still have some lingering effects, but today I'm just going to have to fight through it. As far as Ray Edwards and the two Williams for the Vikings, they're all banged up. The Vikings are most concerned about Ray Edwards. All 3 are expected to start. However, Brad Childress told me as a result of these, he's going to dress an extra defensive lineman for precaution.
All right, as for the Saints, Jeremy Shockey and that knee, what's going on?
You know, he's about 75%. He didn't do much at all this week. They're going to shoot him up here before the game, but they expect him to be full go.
Hey, not on the injury list, Saints defensive coordinator Greg Williams. What's his deal?
How about this? Greg Williams earlier this week was hit with the swine flu. You talk about debilitating. He said he was completely knocked out Monday and Tuesday of this week. He also just had to fight through it.
Hey, the Saints had a surprise guest for last night's meeting, I understand. Who was it and what did he say?
You know, before the season began, Ronnie Lott, the safety, a great safety, he came in, talked to the team, and he had a mantra saying, smell greatness. The Saints used that throughout the entire season. So Sean Payton wanted to bring him back last night. He spoke with the team. He said, guys, you're going to have one chance tomorrow to find that greatness. Make sure you're the guy who finds the greatness.
All right, thanks a lot, Jay. Folks, the party has just begun here in New Orleans. Plenty more headed your way.
Here's what's on tap, simplified with features from the new Windows 7. Favre and Brees have been busting up secondaries all year. Our Hall of Famer Howie and future Hall of Famer Michael give you an inside look on how the defenses may be responsible for who wins or loses today. Then, Pam is one-on-one with Brett, who breaks down his past, present, and future. Also, Frank picks his Super Bowl matchup. That's what's on tap. Brought to you by Windows 7. Your PC simplified.
Okay, so every truck out there is trying to spin, bend, slice the stats their way. They're claiming the best this, the highest that, the most of something else, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Look, here's the most important.
Well, television can be accused of hype every now and then, but believe me, folks, when I tell you this city of New Orleans is absolutely crazy about this team. And right now, they are hoping their Saints can win the NFC Championship game and move on to the Super Bowl to take on the Indianapolis Colts. And we welcome those of you who watched the Colts win 30-17 in the final over the New York Jets, coming back from 17-6 down to get to their second Super Bowl in the last 4 years. But right now, it's time for State Farm to cover the field, and we want to cover the two defensive units in this game. The big play Saints defense, which had 39 takeaways this season, second most in the National Football League, and the Vikings D, which led the league in sacks with 48. Our defensive gurus break it all down. Howie, you take the Saints. Michael starts us off with Minnesota.
State Farm covers the field. To State Farm, nothing's more important than being there on and off the field.
I don't have to tell you the strength of the Vikings defense is up front. They're the best front four in the NFL. The Vikings have Ray Edwards expected to play, but the key matchup in this game might be Jared Allen against New Orleans left tackle Jermon Bushrod. In his first season starting for New Orleans, Bushrod has struggled recently. In the Saints' first loss of the season against Dallas Week 15, DeMarcus Ware beat Bushrod all game to continuously harass Drew Brees. But the biggest, I guess the two biggest factors in this game for the Vikings will be the Williams boys in the middle, Pat and Kevin. These two roadblocks will need to plug up the middle and stuff the Saints' running game. Everything New Orleans does offensively starts with the run. Against Arizona, the Saints exploded for 171 yards on the ground. That completely opened up their passing game.
Flea flicker, some trickery as Brees fires downfield for a Saints touchdown.
So how else can the Vikings slow down the top-scoring team in the league? Minnesota's DBs also need to play more physical. Line up and hit the Saints receivers in the mouth. Cover sacks still count as sacks, and the Vikings will take them however they can get them.
Well, Michael, Saints safety Darren Sharper gets what he wants. This matchup. New Orleans defense allows Sharper to freelance at times. When he guesses right, it could be a pick six. Guess wrong, this can happen.
Favre lets it go downfield, pass caught, touchdown Rice.
No team in the league blitzed more than the Saints, but you've got to look beyond the numbers to get to the core of defensive coordinator Greg Williams' philosophy. Williams, who's nicknamed Wyatt Earp, wants to turn the game into a street fight and challenge opposing quarterbacks both physically and psychologically.
We're coming all day. We're coming all day.
In Week 6 against the Giants, the Saints get to Eli Manning. They hit him high, they hit him low, forcing a pick six. A roughing the passer penalty negates the score, but the damage is done. Eli and the Giants were never the same. Conventional wisdom says you blitz inexperienced quarterbacks and play coverage versus great ones. That's what Williams and the Saints did against Brady in Week 12. They rushed 3 and dropped 8 into coverage for most of the game. This resulted in Tom Brady's only game this year with 0 TD passes and multiple interceptions. Playing coverage all game won't work against Brett Favre. In Week 4, Green Bay opted to drop back in coverage, and Brett made them pay dearly. I doubt Greg Williams will make that same mistake today.
Jimmy, you can make the case that Greg Williams not only changed the attitude of their entire defensive football team, but he also, by challenging their offense on a daily basis in training camp, made them a tougher team on offense.
Yeah, without question. You look at Greg Williams, he doesn't just want to stop a team, he wants to break their will.
All right, when we come back, Jimmy will talk to the New Orleans Saints. Pam Oliver will sit down with Brett Favre. All that and more as we get you set for the NFC Championship.
The NFL.
This is NFL Game Day as experienced by the Now Network, and here's what's happening now, brought to you by Sprint. Brett Favre and Drew Brees get ready for a quarterback matchup for the ages. Favre is on fire, 4 TD passes, no picks last week against Dallas. As for Brees, TB, what can he do to slow down that vaunted Vikings pass rush today?
That's simple. Run the football, change up the cadence.
All right, two guys who can change this game in a hurry, Percy Harvin and Reggie Bush. Howie, what do you expect from each today?
Well, Bush took 2 to the house versus the Vikings last year. Harvin as a returner, as a wide receiver, and possibly as a Wildcat quarterback.
A couple of good tight ends in this with Asante Shanko and Jeremy Shockey. Shanko led the Vikings with 11 TD catches, while Shockey with a sore knee, expected to play today. Michael, you played with both these guys, and I know Shockey made a good first impression on you.
But Shockey was a funny guy, really hard worker, got in the best fight I've ever seen in training camp, which set the tone for his toughness throughout his career.
Looking to do the very same thing for the Saints today. For more NFL Now, download NFL Mobile Live at Sprint.com/NFL, only on the Now Network. All right, Jeremy Shockey and that Saints offense scored the most points in the NFL this season, and last week dropped 45 on the Cardinals in just the first 3 quarters. Now, I know Jimmy was happy to come to New Orleans for several reasons. One of them was he had a chance to talk to the Saints offense.
Kurt, you're exactly right. This Saint offense, not only did they lead the league in 55 offensive touchdowns, they also ran the football. They were 3rd in the league with rushing touchdowns. It all starts with the game plan of Sean Payton and the execution of Drew Brees.
Drew, when does this stop just being a game?
Well, you try to keep it a game as much as you can. That way you just, you never forget why you started playing it in the first place. We play this game because it's fun.
You definitely have fun. Yeah, I don't ever see Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, doing the pregame warm-ups, but you do.
I wanted to do something different. I wanted to change it up, and, felt like the guys were buying into it.
Reggie, great ball game last week.
Reggie!
What do you attribute that success to?
The holes were as big as I've ever seen them. It really starts up front in the trenches with the big guys, the big uglies, we like to call them.
Well, Coach Payton uses a lot of motivational tools.
Yeah.
You had the black bat last week.
Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of get you focused?
Coach Payton does a great job at just motivating the team. Everybody on the team, he gave a bat. And on the bat, it said, bring the wood. I just happened to be the guy to bring the bat out because I just wanted to remind myself every time I came off the sideline, hey, just continue to be physical.
Minnesota's got a great front four. Do you think the screens and the check downs, will that slow them down just a little bit?
We have to, first, I think, worry about their front. To me, I think they're the heart and soul of their defense.
Right.
They kind of control, what goes on throughout the game, and they get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. I think it's just going to be a tough game.
Do you have nightmares of a guy with a mullet chasing you?
Yeah, I'm almost getting one here, but they've got one of the best front fours in football, and they can wreak havoc, if you allow them to. They're game changers, that's for sure.
What do the Saints have to do to win this game?
Just start fast and stay late. We can't allow our crowd to be taken out of this game at any one point because they really are the 12th man for us. We have to finish this game strong.
You're America's team now. You've got that title.
I don't know about that, but I definitely think we've gained a few fans throughout these past years.
How loud will it be in the stadium?
The loudest I've ever heard it before. And we love it. It just gives us more energy.
It's going to be nuts. It's been very much a season of firsts. First time to have that kind of a win streak, first time to host an NFC championship game, first time to be a 1 seed, all those things. And these fans are just loving it.
Tell us a little bit about the relationship you have with the city of New Orleans.
It's kind of unlike anything I've ever experienced before. If we win big games, I heard that people don't even go to work the next day.
Right.
So it's really the city's team. It's not our team, it's the city's team.
And the road to the Super Bowl continues to be through New Orleans.
A win this weekend, you think they're going to be hollering, "Let's the bon ton roulette"?
Hey, I'm telling you, it's going to be crazy. Let's just hope it happens.
That's the bon ton roulette. Michael, the only time this offense is stopped is when they have a turnover.
That's the way you just say it. But anyway, I spoke to the Minnesota Vikings D-line coach right before we started the show. Their game plan, the same thing last week. Physical up front, beat the Saints up on their offensive line up, just like we did the Cowboys. If they can do that, they got a great chance to win and keep the Saints offense from catching on fire.
This is the second year in a row the Saints offense has led the league in scoring. Missing the playoffs last year prompted Sean Payton to make 2 significant changes. 1, bring in Greg Williams. Brought the money out of his own pocket to do that. 2, find balance. 45% runs on their snaps, 4.5 yards a carry. They're going to find a unique way, folks, to run, particularly early.
You know what? I don't know what this means, but statistically, coming into this game, it could be good for the Saints. Over the past 6 NFC title games, the home team 5-1. The only loss, Brett Favre, when he was with the Packers, against Michael G-Men by a home team. That's the only
look
loss.
At that one right there. Thank you, Brett Favre.
All right, Pam Oliver wraps with Favre in just a minute, but first, Drew Brees gets us all fired up.
Hey, it's about us. It's always been about us. And now it's our time. It's our time tonight. Let's get to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, again.
quarter hour away from kickoff of the NFC Championship game of the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. The winner moves on to Super Bowl 44. Well, it's good to be out here in the field because it gets us a little bit closer to everybody's favorite person, Pam Oliver, who joins us right now. And I know, Pam, this week you and Brett Favre were buddies. You sat down and had a nice conversation, didn't you?
We sure did, absolutely, Kurt. Brett's at a total loss about something. He says he can't really put into words just how special this season has been for him. In fact, his wife, Deanna, who is very slow to tears, well, she just keeps crying for much the same reason. But Brett is trying to remember exactly why he came back, and this is it. What keeps you addicted to football?
First of all, you have to love it, and there's no replacement for the excitement, opportunity that we had this week, playing a championship game. Where else are you gonna get that? I mean, it's fun. It's grinding, but it's fun.
Given the fact that you had a career low interceptions, is that indicative of maybe the gunslinger has been drummed out of you?
Really, statistically speaking, it's my best year, and I have to say, aside from statistics, I really believe it is my best year. I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit wiser. Bad plays don't help us win. I've been able to resist that probably more at this stage. I came in with the mentality of not doing too much. Going into that game, I was extremely nervous. To win, there's nothing like it. And I could care less how we do it. I just want to do it. This season has been as much fun as any I've played in.
We saw you just having a blast in the locker room after the game was over.
Hands on the ground! Hands on the ground!
Why pants on the ground?
Percy and Greg Lewis, Tavares, and a bunch of we were, hey, did you watch American Idol? We were supposed to be studying.
Pants on the ground, looking like a fool with your pants on the ground.
I said, we win this game, I'm gonna lead us in pants on the ground.
You kind of jacked it up, though.
I did. I choked.
Hands on the ground! Hands on the ground!
Why do you like slapping guys on the butt?
Initially started doing it was like you see someone kind of moping around, whack.
Yeah, because you got to get it just right to really make it
You don't want to cup it. You want to smack it, I guess.
Okay, moving on. If the chase ends with the way you want it to end, will reporters be in your driveway over the summer?
If they want to cut grass, they're more than welcome to. No, I'm kind of waiting to see what happens, really, more than anything.
So if something great happens, you don't...
It already has happened, and I don't want it to end, but it has been absolutely wonderful up to this point. You know what, even if I knew, and I probably do know right now, I wouldn't say because of that. I think it's unfair to the guys. We're trying to win the Super Bowl. We're not trying to win one for Brett and all that stuff. I mean, it's all about us.
All right, thanks a lot, Pam. Hey, don't forget, we saw Brett Favre do his little Idol tribute. You can catch American Idol each and every Tuesday and Wednesday night right here on Fox. When we come back, we'll hear what the guys have to say about Brett Favre and what their picks are for today's game. That all comes back when we continue with the Built Ford Tough pregame show live from New Orleans. Six months ago, the New Orleans Saints were hoping they could bounce back from the season without the playoffs and just get there. Now they're hosting an NFC Championship game. Right about that same time, Brett Favre was trying to decide if he was going to come back and play football or not. But now, Brett Favre has led the Vikings here to the NFC Championship game, and we saw him sit down with Pam Oliver there. I know we talk about American Idol. He's been your American Idol for quite a while.
Yeah, he has. You know, we spend millions of dollars purchasing yearling thoroughbreds, hoping they'll win the Derby, only to see that money just, you know, burned away. Brett Favre's been a great investment for the Minnesota Vikings. I sense a great deal of humility in that interview with Pam Oliver. I sense he truly does know that this probably is his last year. And I'll say this to you guys one more time. I don't agree with the waffling, never have. But I do say this, he is, in my opinion, the best I've ever seen. And what he has accomplished at the age of 40 this year is truly a marvel, absolute marvel.
Yeah, but Terry, this offseason, he received a tremendous amount of criticism with that New York Jet fiasco. You know, a lot of guys said, well, he was over the hill, he couldn't play, you know, he threw too many interceptions. Even players criticized him, said he wasn't real good in the locker room. And so he had some things to prove. He had some things to check off. Now, number one thing, he wanted to be able to carry his football team. Yeah, and then he did that. Yeah, the other thing, he wanted to win back the locker room. He did that. He beat the Packers twice. He played well in the playoffs. And Howie, yeah, he had to accomplish that last one, but where can you have this much fun while you make $12 million?
Brett didn't fit in New York. It's like Jed Clampett going to Beverly Hills. He fits right here with the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, Brett Favre ready to lead the Vikings onto the field as they get ready for the NFC Championship game. And you know what? Brett Favre against Drew Brees is, yes, as good as it gets. And here's a character who knows all about that in Frank's Cold Hard Picks, presented by Coors Light.
Thanks, Kurt. Hope you fellas are having a good time down in New Orleans. Yeah, you guys got Fat Tuesday, and I'm stuck here with Chubby Sunday. Boy, what a game my man Reggie Bush had last week. I haven't seen him play that well since he signed his first big contract with USC. By the way, I'm going with the Vikings. All right, time to throw it back. Boys, I wish I could be out at Mardi Gras with you. You know, the party and the girls, the yellow, the purple. Whatever will I do here instead? See you next year, losers.
All right, guys, we're taking a look at the updated standing. Howie's still the lead dog, 69 points, but TV had a big week last week. Jumped up to second place. He's got 67. Today's game worth 8 points. Let's get right to it.
They said this thing got damaged in shipping, but I think Michael had something to do with it.
Yeah. He's in the basement. Let's talk about today's game. Vikings and Saints. Frank likes the Vikings, Jimmy.
Played anywhere else, I'd have a different pick, but I'm picking the Saints.
I turned to Twitter and said, who should I pick for the other team losing? They told me to pick the Vikings.
Vikings are the better football team, but I think it's destiny. The New Orleans Saints.
Who dat say you're going to beat those Saints? Who dat?
And that officially makes it the Saints. All right, guys, we have talked about this game for a week. Now it's time to play football. Brett Favre and the Minnesota Vikings in the Superdome, where he won his only Super Bowl to take on the New Orleans Saints. The winner goes on to Super Bowl 44. It's the NFC Championship game, and it kicks off next here on Fox. Here to call it, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
All right, Kurt, here come the Saints in the loudest venue in the NFL. This place will be rocking all night long. It's the number 1 and the number 2 seeds meeting here tonight to stamp their ticket to the Super Bowl. Now, welcome to the broadcast booth, everybody. I am Joe Buck. That is Troy Aikman. The Minnesota Vikings are trying to get to their 5th Super Bowl in franchise history, while the New Orleans Saints try to make it to their first as they host this NFC Championship game for the first time ever. Man, it's loud back there. And as we talk about Minnesota, Troy, in 2009, everybody wanted to talk about Brett Favre, the 40-year-old quarterback. The previous 2 years, the face of the franchise, Adrian Peterson, should be a big part of the attack here tonight.
Yeah, and I think Adrian Peterson is a guy who can help take some of the pressure off of Brett Favre, and he can help neutralize, this crowd noise. You look at Adrian Peterson, he has had a good year. He hasn't had a great year. He hasn't had the big runs that we're accustomed to seeing. But today, he is going up against a run defense in the New Orleans Saints that was one of the worst in the National Football League. They're hoping that he can have a big impact in this one.
New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton told his receivers group this week, we could throw for 500 yards against Minnesota. I don't know if they're going to do that, but he instilled even more confidence in a very confident group.
They want to come into this game right from the beginning and run an up-tempo offense. They want to be the aggressors. They want to keep this crowd behind them, especially early in the game. I think the offense is going to play well. They've played well all year long, but I think the real important element of this game is going to be how does their defense play? Can they get pressure on Brett Favre? Can they continue to get the takeaways that are such a big part of who they are?
Top 2 teams in the NFC during the regular season going at it here tonight. The national anthem's coming up, but first, this from the Verizon Football Zone.
Thanks, guys. Welcome Welcome to your championship game update, brought to you by Verizon, America's largest 3G network. Coming up, a battle in the bayou. Up next, it comes down to this. New Orleans and Minnesota do battle in the dome, with the winner punching their ticket to Miami. So will there be purple rain on South Beach, or will the black and gold finally march their way into the big game? That's your championship update, brought to you by Verizon, America's largest 3G network.
Dares for our national anthem.
Joining us tonight to perform your national anthem is Jive 19 recording artist and your current reigning American Idol, Chris Allen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Chris Allen with our national anthem. When we come back, the last word right before kickoff, a visit with the two head coaches from down on the field, and then football on Fox.